Hashem that we're able to learn every morning. Start a new Masechta today. And the schus of our learning, we should have the base of English immediately. It should be a full Shema for all those that need. Sorry? And a panacea. Yeah. Elasm ben Sarah and David Levi ben Menachad Lester. And Avram Rafal ben Sarah. Shal Levi ben Miriam Edel and Sarah Basnuni. Okay, so the Masechtas Chagigah starts Hakol Chayavim Beria. Yeah, immediately we get a machlaikas, but we had to go to the Beis Hamikdash 3 times a year. It's called Oila Regel. So Rashi says over here, when it says Hakol Chayavim Beria, everyone is obligated to see. It means that we're obligated to go to the Beis Hamikdash. The going to the Beis Hamikdash was that we were supposed to be seen by Hashem, appear. We're supposed to appear before Hashem, in front of Hashem. Taisvas says that it's more than that. Hakol Chayavim Beria is not just appearing in front of Hashem, but it's also bringing the karban, which is called Oilas Riya. So Hakol Chayavim Beria means we're supposed to go to the Beis Hamikdash, go inside, go up to the Azara, and while we're there, bring the karban, according to Taisvas. Chutz, with the exception of Mecheira Shaita V'Katan, someone that's deaf, and we're going to learn that it's specifically deaf and mute. Shaita is an imbecile, and the Katan, a child. We'll see what age that is. And V'Tumtum V'Androginus, someone that's gender is not defined. Tumtum, as it's not defined, and androgynous probably has two. This could be both genders. Benashim and women, they're also exempt. Ba'avadim sheinim meshachrarim, and slaves that are not emancipated. Yeah, they're also exempt. Why does it have to say that? If they're slaves, they're not emancipated. We're going to see later. It's not so simple. Hachiger, someone that's lame, that limps. V'asuma, someone that's blind. V'achela, and someone that's ill. V'azakin, and someone that's old. Umishen yachalalis lalis beraglav, someone that can't walk on his feet. Yeah. So all of these people are exempt. Everyone else is obligated. So it's a big list of exemptions. So how many is that? Chayra, Shaita, Katan, Tumtum, Androginus, Nashim, Avadim, Shenim, Meshaprarim, Chiger, Suma, Chayla, Zakin, 12. It's 12 exemptions. Ezu, Katan, what's considered a child? Kol Sheni Yachal Lirkav al Ksef of Shalav Alalis Mirushalayim L'Harabayis Divrei Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai says that a child is someone that can't even sit on his father's shoulders to be able for his father to carry him up to Yerushalayim, from Yerushalayim to the Harabayis. Once he's able to sit on his father's shoulders, the father has to take him. It's a mitzvah of chinuch, midrabanan. Yeah, so biblically he's exempt always, but the rabbinic law of chinuch would come. You see, a father has to teach his son Torah biblically, but to train him in mitzvahs, it's only rabbinic. So that's otherwise it messes up everything we know. So so to train him in the mitzvahs, that would come at which point, according to Beis Shammai, when he can sit on the shoulders to go up from Yerushalayim to the Harabayis. Beis Hillel says no. Kol shein yachal lechos biyadei shalaviv lalis mirushalayim l'Harabayis. Shneimar shalosh v'Golem. When does the father need to train him? When he's a bit older. When he's able to walk, he's hold his father's hand and walk from Yerushalayim to the Harabayis. That's when chinuch comes. And that's when he has the rabbinic obligation to educate him, to bring him to the Beis Hamikdash. Yerushalayim Harim Savavla. There's the I'm not sure exactly what spot in Yerushalayim it means, but it probably means to get up to the Temple Mount. To walk from the base of the mountain up. There's no base. It's all mountain. It's all hills. Yeah. Oh, because there's a mountain above that. Yeah. I'm sorry?
It says here, although the Mishnah mentions the Temple Mount, the mitzvah is to appear in the temple courtyard.
Right.
The lot is equivalent to the courtyard of the tabernacle in the wilderness, which was the camp of the divine presence. Temple Mount, on the other hand, is the equivalent of the tabernacle's camp of the Levites, which was not an area that could be considered before Hashem. The Mishnah uses the Temple Mount only as a measuring stick, for if one can climb to that point, he can surely ascend the stairs that lead from the edge of the Temple Mount to the courtyard.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yosef is resolving a problem. The problem is that the Mishnah doesn't say the actual performance of the mitzvah. The performance of the mitzvah is to make it into the courtyard, into the Azara. So why does it say to get to the Temple Mount? From Yerushalayim to the Temple Mount? The answer is because if you can get to the Temple Mount, then you can for sure get to the next part. That's but yeah, doesn't answer like it would have been easier if it would have said that to the courtyard, then we would have understood what the mitzvah is, and it would be the same thing anyway. Because if you can get to the court, it's because okay. Now we have another machlekes. It says, how did Beis Hillel get that? It says shalosh regalim. Now regel, we're going to learn, although it means 3 times a year, but it actually has the word feet in there. It means he has to be able to walk, not just to be carried. You see, the way the understanding of Beis Hillel is like this, that because when he gets older, he's going to only be obligated if he's able to walk on his feet to Yerushalayim, to the Harabayas. So as chinuch, it's only when he's able to do what he would be obligated to do when he's an adult. If as an adult he can't get to Yerushalayim on his feet, he wouldn't be obligated. So as a child can't get on his feet, the father doesn't have to carry him. As an adult, he wouldn't be obligated anyway. Okay. Beis Shama Yoimrim Hariya Shtei Kesef VaChagigah Ma Kesef. There's actually 3 sacrifices that are brought on the holiday. One is called the Eilas Riyah. It's a burnt offering. Another one is called Shalmei Chagigah. And the last one is called Shalmei Simcha. There's 1 burnt offering and 2 peace offerings. The Shalmei Simcha is brought if there wasn't enough meat in the Shalmei Chagigah. If they wanted more meat, it's a big feast, they would bring these other sacrifices called Shalmei Simcha. Yeah. I remember it for the acronym Shachar. Simcha, Chagigah, Riyah. Those are the 3 sacrifices. Okay, so Beis Shammai says that the more expensive one is the burnt one. You don't get anything from that. That's just the burnt offering. That's 2 ma. A ma is 32 prutas, and it's a third of a dinar. The Chagigah, the one that you get to eat, that's the cheaper one. That's the ma kesef. That's the sixth of a dinar. Beis Hillel says no. The riyah that gets burnt is the cheaper one. The one that you eat, that's the more expensive one. That's the Chagigah Shtei Kesef. Okay. You see where we're holding, Professor? You're looking for the book. Okay. Now the Gemara does what it usually does. Whenever you say that there's a general rule, it makes a general statement. So the Gemara says, what are you coming to teach me by that general statement? You must be including something, or else you would have it itemized. So it says, Hakol Lasiyimai, what are you including when you said Hakol? Everyone is obligated in Riyah. Who's the everyone? What are you trying to say? Who's the one that you want to include? So it says, and it's coming to include someone that's a half slave and half half free. How'd that happen? He had partner. There were partners that owned the slave, owned the cleaning lady. This is the beginning of a lot of fights. So one of them let their slave go free. Okay, so now he's half free, half slave. So yeah, what they call the document a deed of manumission, right? He let him free, and so now he's half and half. So we said that a slave doesn't have to go. Problem is that he's half not slave. So the half not slave makes him obligated to go to the base of English. So we say, who are you coming to include? Everyone. Who's that? Everyone. The Gemara says 1 second. According to Ravina, later in the Gemara is going to say that someone that's half slave and half free is exempt. He says clearly is exempt. Why does he say that? Because what the pasuk says, "Es pnei ha'adin Hashem," you have to come and see the master. God, this person has a second master, so that exempts it. The verse says clearly to see the master, and he has it because he has another master. So Ravina says that he's exempt. So now we go back to the Mishnah. We say that everyone is obligated to go to the Beis Hamikdash. Who's the everyone? So we were saying it's including the half slave. Ravina says the half slave is exempt. It can't be him. So Hakol Lasi Yimai, according to Ravina, who's it going to include? So we answer Lasi Chagigah b'Yom Rishon v'Nespashet b'Yom Sheni. It's coming to include, very interesting, someone that was lame on the first day, and then on the second day of the holiday, he was healed. Okay. So he has to go as well to the Beis Hamikdash. That's what it's coming to include. Could have thought he's exempt because he was exempt on the first day. So you say, okay, I'm exempt. I'm, what is it, like grandfathered in or something, like exempt at the beginning, it continues later. It says, this would make sense. Yeah, the expression kulan tashlum zelazeh is a little confusing. I would have liked it to have said, kulan mechuyavin b'fnei atzmai, that every single day is the obligation. That's what it means. It means that if you say that every moment of the holiday is the obligation to fulfill the mitzvah of Riyah, then we understand why he should be obligated, because the first day was exempt, but so what? The obligation came right when he was obligated, and it's still the holiday. But if you say that all of them is just a makeup, a way of, what's the word? What's a better word for that? They use over there. It's a tashlumin. It's a way of rectifying, completing. It's completing the first day. If you were exempt on the first day, you have nothing to complete. So according to that opinion, you see, there's two ways of looking at the holiday, the obligation to go up to the temple. One is the obligation's on the first day. If you missed it the first day, you can do it the second day. But that would mean that if you were exempt the first day, then there's nothing to do the second day, because it's only a completion of the first day. It's only a way of rectifying what you missed. Yeah, I have this question. We would do in the Bezdin, we would do conversions in the morning. So there's a mitzvah to recite the Shema in the morning. Now, what's the time of that mitzvah? The mitzvah is by sunrise. The mitzvah is to do it by sunrise. By Nates, that's a. Now, if you don't say it by Nates, you can say it until Seif Siman Kriya Shema, which is 3 hours of the day. So the people would go to the mikveh and say, "Oh, it's almost Seif Siman Kriya Shema." I was wondering, do they really have to say it? They missed the original time of the Shema. Is the whole time the original time, or is the whole time a makeup for the original time? They weren't Jewish at the time. Anyway, it's the same concept. On the first day, they were exempt. This person was exempt, but now it's the second day. So quickly hurry to the basement. Or do we say, 1 second, at the time when the obligation came in, he was exempt. There's no obligation.
We're discussing Pesach, right?
Pesach, including Pesach.
Yeah.
Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, Shalosh Regalim.
Got it. And when we say the second day, we're not talking about the second of the first day, so we're talking about the second day.
No. think we're talking about all 7 days. Talking about all
the
7
second
days.
day, even
Yes, yeah. I said I'm saying the second day, but I mean second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh.
It's a free time for you, right?
Yeah.
I have this every day. The kid is exempt from an exam. He says, does he have to make it up? Or is he exempt?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I have these guys in the these bachrim in yeshiva. They do that to me. They miss like one class, and then they're there for the review. They're there for the whole. Yeah, but I had an appointment at one time. So yeah, but you were here for the review. So yeah, but I missed the. Okay.
What do you rule it? What do you call it? I should say, read it somewhere and figure it out.
Yeah, I try to make them feel responsible, but okay. So according to this opinion that he's not obligated because he was exempt on the first day, hakol asiyimai. So who's it coming to include? He's exempt. Can't be including the person that was a Chagigah b'yom rishon. The Gemara answers yisuma bachas miyeinav. It's talking about someone that's blind in one eye. Okay. According to this, we're going to need to limit the Mishnah. It's interesting because what we just did here was we asked who we're coming to include. So we said we're coming to include a half slave. They said, oh, it's not going to fit according to one opinion. So it's okay, we'll need a new answer. We gave a new answer. It's going to include someone that's lame on the first. It's not going to fit according to one opinion. So we're giving a new answer, which is going to fit only according to one opinion. And somehow the Gemara is satisfied with this, even though the last two answers, we had the same issue. And we, if it's talking about Taisvus, if it's we're learning Taisvus Pshat, that you have to go to bring the sacrifice to Lasriya, so that would be a Tashlumin. Yeah, you have to bring after Shavuos. Yeah, what according to Rashi, how would that work? Is there still a mitzvah after Shavuos to be going to the base moves? That's a good question. It doesn't fit with one Tana, but okay. The Tanya was taught in a Brisa. Yechanan ben Dava Yomer Mishum Rab Yehuda. It's maybe Yehuda ben Tema. It says on the side. Summa bachas me'einav. Someone that's blind in one eye, patim in Ariya. He's exempt from Riyah. We're not going to go according to this. We're going to say that Hakal is including that person. Why does he say? Why does this dissenting view? Why does he say this? It says Shenemar Yira. It says that we should go to the Beis Hamikdash to be seen. The problem is when you look at Yira, that's the pronunciation of it. But the actual word, if we didn't know what the verse was supposed to be read, it would say Yira, to see. The same way he's supposed to see, so he's supposed to be seen. Now we do this comparison like this, and there's different versions of this. But it's basically Mal liris b'shteyenav, afli reis b'shteyenav. Yeah. One way of reading this goes like this. Just like he sees, just like Hashem sees with both his eyes. That's anthropomorphic. So too, he should be seen with both his eyes. He should be seen. He should appear with both his eyes. That means he needs to have two eyes to be obligated in the mitzvah. Yeah, that's definitely the point of this, that he needs to have both eyes to be obligated in the mitzvah of, okay, to see and be seen. Yeah, that's where the glasses place got the advertisement, right?
What do you need to see, though?
What does he need to see? Yeah, so Rashi actually learns that just like Hashem sees him with both his eyes, so too Hashem sees him with both his eyes. Him, both his lower case H, both his eyes, as opposed to, the same statement with the capital H and with the lowercase h. That's how Rashi learns it. But the other commentators learn it different.
Oh, it says over here, I call chayvim b'riyah. Riyah is seeing.
Right.
It's a
Yeah,
form
but
of.
does it mean to be seen or does it mean to see?
Deep sins.
So we're learning according to Rashi. According to Taisus, it means it's yeah. Either way, it doesn't matter. But according to Taisus, it means the sacrifice, the illustrian. No, Hakol is coming to include the one that's blind in one eye, but we're not going to follow the opinion of Yochanan ben Davai. Not according to him. Yeah, this is a little surprising because this was our problem the whole time, that we were trying to get it a satisfactory answer that would cover all opinions. That's why we kept changing the answer. And then at the end, we just say, okay, we'll go according to this. Not maybe the reason why it's doing this is because we don't paskin like him. Doesn't look like that either. Looks like we do paskin like that. Okay, another teretz. Riba Yasema. Lailam Kadamri and Kadamri Mikara. Really, it's the way we said originally. What did we say originally? We said that it's coming to include someone that's half slave. He's obligated to go. Why? Because he's half free. That half freedom makes him. By the way, the half free person is obligated to all mitzvahs. He has to do everything. He has to put on tefillin because he's half free. The slave would also do all the mitzvahs that a woman has to do, but because he's half free, he has to do the mitzvahs that a man has to do, just tefillin. And so yeah, the Tanan was taught in the Mishnah. Mishachetz of Eved. I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Kamba Mishnah Rishena, Kamba Mishnah Achrena. There's two versions of this. There was a time when there was a machlekes, and then there was a time when people resolved the machlekes and they accepted one view. So what we're going to do is like this. We're going to say that Hakol Chayavim Beriah is talking about the later time, after everyone accepted this following view that we're going to learn. So then we're going to say that everyone would agree that this person is really obligated in Riyah, is the half slave is obligated. So how does this work? It goes like this. The Tanana was taught in the Mishnah, Mishachetz Eved B'chetz Ben Chayrin. Someone that's half slave, half free. Why? Because it's one of the masters, one of the partners, freedom. So what does he do? For one day he goes to slave, to work for the master. And then one day he works for himself. He opens up an Amazon business and he does his thing on the side while he's working for the other guy, right? That's Divrei Beis Hillel. That's Beis Hillel says. Amalam Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai says, turn the page. The Kanta Mr. Rabbi. You got it worked out for the financials. How he works for this one, and he works for himself. That's you fixed. Rabbi is the master. You got it functional. Besatzme like to Kantim. But what about him as a person? Lisa Shifchena Yachol. He can't get married. He can't marry a slave. Why not? He can't marry a slave. The problem why he can't marry a slave is because Bas Chayrin Eina Yachol. I'm sorry, Lisa Shivreina Yachol. He can't marry a slave because and he can't marry a Bas Chayrin. Bas Chayrin Eina Yachol. So he can't marry the slave. See, this is a little complex. He can't marry a slave because he's half free. But even someone that's half free maybe could sell himself as a eved, as a eved ivri. A Jewish slave is allowed to marry the non-Jewish slave. So I have a solution. This is Taisus' question. Taisus asks, let him become an eved ivri, half a eved ivri. Another half he is not Jew. He's not Jew. He's an eved Kanani, right? And he can marry the non-Jewish slave, which that's acceptable. Oh, so Taisus says there's a problem because he was never married before. The only one that's allowed to marry the non-Jewish slave is someone that was married before, and this person wasn't married before. If you're going to say he was married before, but that wasn't a Jewish marriage, only if he had a Jewish marriage before would he be allowed to marry the Shifcha Kananis. Begapa Yave, Begapa Yetz, remember? So he can't marry the Shifcha, can't marry a Bas Chayrin, because a regular Jewish girl is not allowed to marry a slave. So, Libatel.
But if she converts after she gets married.
Yeah, but how does the marriage take place? She's not Jewish? Yeah, so 1 second. He's partially slave, which means partially Jewish, partially, right? Who would you like him to marry? Yeah, but no, because he's half Jewish. He can't marry a non-Jew. Right. No, because the suggestion was that if he sells himself as a slave to a Jewish owner, the half Jew that he is would become a half Jewish slave. And then the other half of him is a non-Jewish slave. So either way, he's a slave. So the rule by the slaves is that they could marry the non-Jewish, even a Jewish slave can marry a non-Jewish slave woman. So it seems like we had a solution. But that's only if it was married before. Here it wasn't married before. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we don't have it because we don't have slavery. We get arrested. We do have slaves?
We are slaves.
Oh, we are slaves? Uh-huh. Oh, the big prison. America is a big prison. I heard people talking like that. Okay.
How does one become a half slave in the first place?
Well, he was owned by partners. One of the partners decides to free him.
Okay. Oh,
So
I see.
that leaves him as
So it's a joint venture.
that only fixes the financials, not the fact that he's supposed to get married. So libatel, what do you want to leave him? Okay, so one person doesn't get married. It says that's you're not allowed to do that. The whole world was just created to be fruitful and multiply. The world wasn't created for chaos, it was created to settle. Right? Devoid. Tell you, it's made to be settled. That's the obligation. Rather, in order to fix the world, what do? We say like this. We forced the master to free him. The other master, the one that didn't free him yet. So the first partner really has full control. Each partner has full control. Whoever's going to free him first, the other one's going to be forced to free him. Now, because of that, the way it works is like this. Because of Lishtar al Chatzidamav, he writes him a document for half his value. That means that he frees him. Now, Beis Shammai had a compelling argument, and Beis Hillel accepts it, which means that Beis Hillel now holds that this person is going to get freed. How? Because the Beis Din's going to force it. So if we look at this person, that's a chetzev eved v'chetzev ben chayrin, because he's going to get freed, he's considered already freed, even if it didn't happen yet. He's considered that he's already freed, and he's obligated to be oila regel, because what did the pasuk say, that he has to have a master, one master? This person has two masters. No, it's considered like he only has one master. He has to be oila regel. Ravina says that Chatzi ben Chayrin is chayev. Ravina was explaining the other part of the Mishnah that says Vavadim shenim shachrarim. That was the Mishnah Rishona. That was the original. That's when Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai were arguing. But then Beis Hillel agrees to Beis Shammai that he has to be freed, and that's when we say Hakol chayav and beria, that even the Chetzev Eved, Chetzev ben Chayrin has to go to the Beis Hamikdash. Okay. Now we say Chutz micheir sheitav v'katan, except for someone that's deaf, and an imbecile, and the katan, and a child. Katani cheirish dim yedesheitav v'katan. The Mishnah says like this. In this list of cheirish sheitav v'katan, it puts all three together. So we think that they're all similar. Ma sheitav v'katan d'lav b'nei deya. Just like an imbecile and a child doesn't have das. Das in Chassidus means like a full awareness, like to be what does it say in Tanya? That's able to control the thought, to hold the thoughts for. So a child could be a genius. He could precocious, but it doesn't mean that he really understands what his actions are. Just because he knows a lot of information, he could still do foolish things and all of this. He could play with things that are dangerous. He doesn't realize what's happening. That's similar to an imbecile that doesn't understand what the consequences are and all of that.
So the sentence says you're an imbecile.
That's because you parked in the wrong spot. The cherish has to be similar to that he's lacking understanding. Now, why should that be? Why should a cherish be lacking understanding? You can't hear. So we say like this. Af cherish la b'nei deyahu. The Kamash Malan, it's coming to teach us Kiditanan as the following Mishnah. Cherish shedibra chacham b'chal makim. When the sages talk about a cherish, someone that's deaf, that's she'ina shemei aveina medaber. It's talking about that he's deaf and mute. Gemara understands this, that we're talking about that he was always deaf. He was born like this. That's the basic understanding of this. But let's say he's not mute. He speaks, but he can't hear. Now, how did he learn how to speak? Probably because he was able to hear earlier. That's what you have to say. Yeah. Remember the child, he comes home from school with the scribble on. He says, "Look, mommy, I learned how to write." So the mother says, "But what does it say?" He says, "I don't know. We learn how to read tomorrow." So how did he learn how to speak if he can never hear? So the answer is because at one time he was able to hear. He lost his hearing later. So you say that person is obligated on mitzvahs. That's a regular person. It's very common. Someone gets older, he doesn't hear. So Shemeya ve'ina medaber chayev. If he speaks but he can't hear, or he hears but he can't speak, so both of those are chayev. Why? Because those people, according to the Gemara, they're considered that they have a full understanding.
What about hearing and not speaking?
Yeah, so hearing and not speaking was the next one. He's chayev in all mitzvahs. That's a regular. So when do we say someone is exempt because of deafness? That's only if he can't speak either. This that we've just derived from the Mishnah, we actually have taught this in a brisa. Hamidaber beina shemeya, someone that speaks but can't hear, because later in life he lost his hearing. Zehu cherish. That's what we call cherish. Not what the Mishnah calls cherish, but that's the term cherish. Shemeya veina medaber, someone that speaks but can't hear, but someone that hears but can't speak. Zehu ilim, that's what we call mute. Both of these people are considered like regular Jewish people, wise, intelligent, that they're obligated in all mitzvahs. It's called a pikeach. Mimai, the medaber veina shemeya zeu cherish, shemeya veina medaber zeu ilim. Where do you get this from? That these Hebrew term, we're asking like a Hebrew language question. Where do you get that? This is called a cherish and this is called an ilim. Where do you get those words from? So we say diksiv. We actually have a pasuk that teaches us those Hebrew words. Pasuk says, "Vani kecherish la yashma." It's pasuk in Tehillim. I am like a deaf person that cannot hear. Uke'ilim, and like a mute, la yiftach piv, that can't open his mouth. So it's actually the pasuk itself teaches us the meaning of those words. Viba yasema, you can also say kedam rienshi. Good day. Okay. Safe flight.
Safe flight.
As people say, ishtakil milula. It's a compound. It's the word elaim is made up of this word that his words were taken. Elaim is milula, that his words were taken away. Okay.
We have the same word, different meaning.
And alam, yeah, strong. Right.
There's my question.
Yeah, but this is in Hebrew. Elaim is Hebrew, and alam is Aramaic. Yeah. Remember.
Yeah, right. Is there a distinguish between hearing, listening? You can listen with your eyes.
Deep
Right.
assist.
Right.
Listen and hearing.
That's a discussion in the word Shema. The Gemara Brachos discusses that. What does Shema mean? Does it mean? Yeah. Does it mean that you have to be able to hear what you're saying? It doesn't mean you have to understand, or does it mean? Actually, the Rashba puts in another. It means to obey. Right? And say, why aren't you listening to me? I said, I heard everything you said. I'm just not doing it. So it can mean obey, and it could also mean understand. Right? Could mean to witness. I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. That's taking the two big letters. but the word itself, you're correct in that. But the word Shema means either to hear, understand, or obey.
He said like you can hear with your eyes.
Yeah.
It's almost like you witnessed with your eyes.
Oh. I hear what you're saying. Okay. Now the Gemara, instead of explaining the Mishnah, is now explaining the brisa that we quoted. Someone that speaks but can't hear, hears but can't speak. That's a regular person. He's chayiv in all the mitzvahs. V'hatanya, we have a brisa. Medaber ve'ena shemei, shmeina ve'ena medaber is pater. Say that he's exempt. It's not obligated. How are we going to resolve a clear contradiction? We'll resolve this by adding words into the Mishnah. Say that the Mishnah is talking about two things. Then we'll say that he's exempt in one of them and obligated in the other one, and that will resolve it. Okay. This is how we'll teach it. The Mishnah now says, with the amended version, Hakol chayavim b'riyah u'besimcha chutz mecheresh hamedaber ve'ena shemeya. Everyone is obligated in Riyah, bringing the sacrifice, Rashi now says, or the way he learned originally, that it means going up to the Beis Hamikdash. And it's also obligated in Simcha. What's Simcha? Simcha is to rejoice on the holiday by bringing the sacrifice, the Shalmei Simcha, and eating the meat. However, there's some exceptions. The exception to this is that someone that speaks but doesn't hear, he's just deaf, or he's shemeya ve'ena medaber, or he hears but he's mute, shepater min hariyah. He's exempt from riyah. He's exempt from going to the Beis Hamikdash and bringing the sacrifice. However, but he's still obligated in the rejoicing. That's how we just resolve the contradiction. We have one brisa that says that such a person that has one of the faculties, speech but not hearing, or hearing but not speech, is chayiv. That's referring to simcha. The one that's the brisa that says that he's exempt, that's referring to riyah. Now we're going to need to explain why this and why that. Why? Hopefully we'll get to it.
You rejoice but not hear.
Yeah.
How can you do that?
You can only rejoice if you're going to be there, and maybe they could bring him the food without going up. But if he doesn't hear or speak, or if he's an imbecile or a child, he's exempt from simcha as well, because he's exempt from all mitzvahs, because he goes under that category of the cheir sheit v'katan. Tanya nami hachi, we even have a brisa that says it in this new way of that we just amended the Mishnah. Hakol chayavim b'riyah b'simcha. You see that? Both together. Everyone's obligated in both riyah and simcha. However, chutz mecheresh hamedaber ve'ena shemeya, or shemeya ve'ena medaber, shepatur min hariyah. If he's exempt, if he has only one of the faculties, he's exempt from riyah. He's exempt from going to the Beis Hamikdash or bringing the sacrifice. He still is obligated to rejoice on the holiday. Exactly the way we amended the brisa, that he's exempt from all mitzvahs if he doesn't have both faculties, hearing and speech. How the Gemara asks the obvious question: why do you differentiate between the two? That riyah, which means going to the Beis Hamikdash, he's exempt. Simcha, he's obligated. Why do you do that? We say le'inyan riyah gamar riyah mihakel. We're going to learn from Hakel. Hakel is the year the after the Shemitah year, on the holiday of Sukkot, everyone is obligated to go to the Beis Hamikdash to hear the king read from the Sefer Torah. The ksiv Hakel esa'ama anashim v'anashim v'ataf. Gather the people, the men, the women, and the children. Uksiv, and it says over there, B'va Yisrael le'rois, where the Jewish people will come to see. Aha. So, what does that tell me? How do you know over there? We're learning Leroy's back to our Leroy's. Over there it says to see. Over here on the holidays it says to see. How do we know over there that the person has to be able to hear and speak? It says Diksiv Laman Yishmu Laman Yilmadu. So that you will hear and so that you will learn. We're going to see if it really means learn in a second. Bitanya, the Brisa tells us, Laman Yishmu Prat Lamadaber Veina Shemea. Who's obligated to go to Hakel? Everyone, except for someone that can't hear. Even if he could speak, but if he can't hear, the point of it was to hear. They were going to read from the Torah. If he can't hear, so he doesn't have to go. Laman Yilmadu, someone that can't learn. Prat l'shemeya veina medaber. This is someone that's a mute. If he's mute, he can't learn. Gemara asks, someone that can't talk, can't learn. Yeah. There's a type of learner that's like he learns with talking. So I have this in the class. They participate like very, very much, a lot of participation. It's a style of learning. Some people they just listen there. Some people they have to like, they act it out, kinesthetic. But then you have these that they learn with talking. They say it back, and this is what it means, and that's how they get it. It helps to understand. The Gemara, there's different learning styles. So the Gemara is now saying, is that what you mean to say that if you can't talk, you can't learn? There were these two mute people, that were in the neighborhood of Rabbi. Bnei Brati de Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgoida. They were the grandsons of Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgoida, the sons of the daughters of Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgoida. V'amla bnei Achte de Rabbi Yochanan, and some say they were the nephews, the sons of the sister, of Rabbi Yochanan, probably Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgoida. The Kolemas to Havi Ayel Rebbe lebei Midrash Havi Ayel v'Yasri Kamayu. Whenever Rebbe would come in to teach, they would come in also. Umanaydi Bereshayu. And they would nod their heads, and they would mumble with their lips, but they weren't able to talk. Rebbe had to daven for them, and they were healed. You know what happened when they were healed? The Havi Gemiri Hilchasa, V'Sifra, V'Sifri V'Kula Shas. They knew the whole Torah. While they were mute, they knew the whole Torah. Because,
and then when they finally did those, they had the special school. It turned out that for the years that they sat, they were told, sit in the back, you can't learn, you're stupid, but you just sit there in class. When they got the block removed, it turns out that they had learned all the math and all the science that they had sat through. Right? They were really quite smart. But they always were categorized as special needs.
There we have it in the Gemara. They stay full sentences, right? Yeah.
They start talking full sentences.
Okay, so what are we learning? That we're trying to say that when it comes to the mitzvah of Hakel, only people that can hear and also speak are obligated in the mitzvah of Hakel. You have to have both faculties. And because of that, the people that need to go to the Beis Mikdash are people that need to speak and hear, because we're learning Oila Regel from Hakel. Only problem is, what does it say by Hakel? It says, L'man Yishmu, L'man Yilmadu. L'man Yishmu is, the Yishmu is easy. They need to be able to hear. L'man Yilmadu means that they need to be able to learn. You're thinking that learning means speech. People can learn without speech, as we see from the story. Amar Marzutra, Karibe L'man Yilamdu. Marzutra says L'man Yilmadu, but if you change the vowels, the pronunciation, you can read it so that they should teach. They should hear and teach. You can't teach without speech. Ravashi Amar Vade L'man Yilamdu. Even without this question from these people in the neighborhood of Rebbe, you anyways have to say that it's referring to teaching. If you would say it means to learn, and you want to say that if he can't talk, he can't learn. And if he can't hear, he can't learn. So Laman Yishmu tells me that you have to be able to learn. So if you wanted to tell me that you have to learn, we said it already. Laman Yishmu. So what does Laman Yalamdu mean? Yilmedu mean? Elavade Laman Yilmedu Yalametu. It must mean to be able to teach. Okay.
Isn't there like a custom for some Jewish people to hear the whole book of Devarim every 7 years? Even though there's no Beis Mikdash or anything?
No, what we do is on Hoshana Rabbah by night, there's a custom either to read the whole Devarim or to have someone read it from a Torah scroll. Some shall say read it in Torah scroll. Every Hoshana Rabbah by night.
Because Hakel is just
Hakel is only every seventh, in the eighth year. In the eighth year. Amar Rab Tanchem says, Chirish Baznei Achas Patim min Ariyah. Someone that can't hear in one ear is exempt. Shenemar Ba'azneihem. He's learning again from Hakel. It says over there that it should go into their ears. Ears in the plural. I'm sorry. Bahai Baznei Mibayle. Baznaim Dekuli Yisrael. But that pasuk is telling me that everyone should be able to hear it. It's not coming to exclude this one individual that doesn't have both ears, that can't hear from both ears. The Gemara says no. That we know when it says that he should read the Torah in front of all the people, that they should be able to hear it. But that wouldn't tell me that all the Jewish people have to hear it. So Kasav Rachmana Ba'aznayim. So that's why it has to say Ba'aznayim that they have to be able to hear it. V'hu Deshami, as long as they can hear it. So Zahu Malaman Yishmu Nafka. How's the Gemara concluding? That this is a proof to Rab Tanchem or it's not? Yeah, how does the Gemara conclude? That Rab Tanchem has a proof or he doesn't have a proof? What does it say in the
Yeah, right. Yes.
Yes.
show me your translation. Yeah. So it says the Gemara answers the halacha that the people must hear is derived from that they may hear, the man yishmu. Therefore, the phrase in their ears is not required for that purpose. Rather, it teaches that only those who can hear with both ears are obligated in the midst of assembly and by extension in the midst of appearance as well. So it's actually, Rab Tanchem, according to this conclusion, is correct. But the man Baznayim is teaching me that he needs to have both ears. Only someone that has both ears would be obligated in going to the Beis Mikdash. Okay, let's leave it over here. Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos.